Hey guys, it's Sarah from Sarah's Theories, and today I'm going to talk about the last video of the night. I'm going to talk about Marie Antoinette, her story, her life, her children, her love affairs, and her death, which could have been avoided for one particular reason: the French Revolution. If any of you were paying attention in high school history class, you all would know that the French Revolution led to the basically the end of the royal family of France, and the royal line of France was overthrown during the French Revolution, and that's what led to the death of Louis XVI, or I think Louis XIV of France, and his wife, Marie Antoinette. As for their children, their whereabouts were never found. Probably some of them died. Some speculations were that they were taken from them. They died during the revolution. And maybe some of them survived and went on to live, because there's a story about Marie Antoinette's daughter, Marie Therese, that went on to get married and have a lovely husband. So yeah. But let's start with the story of Marie Antoinette, and also the movie. Of course, we're going to talk about the movie, the accuracy of the movie, as well as the historical facts. So let's get on to basically Marie Antoinette. Her story is very, very not complicated at all. She is one of the most iconic females in history. Not just that, she's also historic because of her basically lust for spending. And most of all, you could say that, sorry guys, just making a few changes. Her lust for spending was a very, very amazing thing. Also, she's only standing as number one because of what she did. I can name a top 10 people who, top 10 women of history who have been famous for many things. That'll probably be my last video for the night, guys. I'll do that one if you all want me to. Let's just say that Marie Antoinette was famous for only one thing. It was the famous quote that obviously she did not say. It's "let them eat cake." And probably because of her obsession with loving everything covered in frosting, and she loved sweets. She was only 14 when she got married. So yeah, let's begin her story. So Marie Antoinette was born in Austria. I can't remember what palace, though there was probably so many of them. She was arranged in marriage by her own mother, who arranged that friendship between Austria and France must be cemented by marriage. And as in the film, well, if you've seen the Christian Dunn's version of Marie Antoinette, y'all would know that the marriage between Marie Antoinette and Louis XIV, Louis Auguste of France, was a cemented marriage, not out of love, but out of just friendship. And as you can see, that Marie Antoinette and Louis were arranged marriage since she was 14 and I think he was 17. And something like out of my White Queen theory about royal marriages, how they're arranged, and how you can love the person you're married to or hate them or get to know them better. Look at my White Queen theory about royal marriages. So let's see. After they were married immediately after Marie literally arrived in France, and their marriage lasted for a long time. It wasn't until probably the age of 20 when Louis XV had died that Marie ended up pregnant a few months after the death of Louis XV, and her and Louis XVI were crowned King and Queen of France. And not long after that, she fell pregnant. So, yes, you could say that she was quite an extraordinary young girl. Most of all, she just didn't enjoy the life of luxury and partying and having fun and doing what she wanted as a young girl. After all, teenagers were hard to handle. She would have been in high school by the time she was 14. About around that time, but obviously schooling and royalty are two different things. So, yeah, all those years before she became 20, basically you could say like almost 6 years. 6 years of marriage that those two have been together, and she never consummated her marriage once until she was around 20, and then she fell pregnant with her first child, which was a girl. And that child, basically, she raised with happiness, even if they wasn't what she wanted. And obviously, she and Louis had 3 children. I think the 4th one died as a baby. And they had, I think they had 2 sons. They had an heir to the throne, I know that. And they had, they obviously had, to have at least 2 children, maybe 3. So, yes, this is a regular picture of what Marie Antoinette really did look like. In history, she was known as the beautiful queen, but also known as Madame Dauphisette, or you could call her the Defiance of France. So after many years of marriage, she obviously had many affairs, and many of them we'll talk about, because I believe one of the royal children is a bastard child. And most of all, you all could say that she was mostly known for eating sweets and cake and fashion, and loved to shop a lot, spend most of the royal family fortune. And also, because during this time, the Americans were helping with the Civil War, with their revolution, you could say that Marie was not too happy with this arrangement. She was happy, of course, to help the Americans, but because of her spending, the people of France became so hungry, and mostly hoping bring soldiers to America for aid against for their revolution. It cost so much with Marie's spending that the people of France were starving, and then they stormed the Palace of Versailles, literally wanting to destroy the monarchy, and they broke down the gates of the entire palace, and apparently Marie Antoinette was hanging her head over the balcony, as in the film and in historical facts. And she basically wanted them to take off her head anyway. She didn't care. And what happened after that was the royal family were evacuated were taken away from Versailles to Paris, even though they should have left France for good. But Louis XVI refused to be a king in exile. So, after that, the royal family left for Paris, and after that led into the events of the French Revolution, where basically the aristocrats and the royal family were executed. Louis XVI, recorded in history, was the first one to be executed, of course. A month or so after his death, Marie Antoinette was next in line, and after that, I think the last word, she wasn't afraid to die. She was obviously imprisoned, and the last thing we know is that she had her head chopped off at the guillotine. So yes, that's Marie's whole life, from Austria to the guillotine of France. So now let's get to the film part of Marie Antoinette. Now, the movie with Kirsten Dunst in it is basically as accurate as you can get it to be. The outfits were amazing, the tension, the hair. Of course, the color of the hair could have been done a bit more, like the blonde part and the normally whitish blonde for Kristen Dunst, but then again, she was acting between the roles of Marie Antoinette. The clothes were amazing, the jewelry was pretty darn amazing, and the look of the entire palace of Versailles looks like something that most girls would want in their bedroom at the age of 16 or 12 at least. So, yes, I love the Marie Antoinette movie. When I first came upon it, I was like, I had to do a theory about this. I just have so many questions, so many answers. But first, let's get to the theories about the many things I have a problem with about the film in the first place. Like was Marie Antoinette really in love with her husband? Who was the real person who could have caused all this? And was everything Marie Antoinette said true? Was she really in love with her husband? Was she a really good queen? Would she make a really good lover? But we're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about the film in general. I know probably some of you don't like the Marie Antoinette film, but I think that she was practically Kristen Dunst playing Marie Antoinette was amazing. So, yeah, let's talk about the facts of the entirety of the film. So, Kristen Dunst playing Marie Antoinette was pretty darn amazing. I like that, her outfits for one thing. But most of all, I know you all probably think that sorry guys, I'm trying to type something right now. Now, let's just talk about the film in general. I think that, well, the outfits were amazing. The jewelry, the hair could have been done a bit better, but, yeah, you could say that, well, she was a total babe at times. So this picture I chose for Kristen Dunst because it's the one that appears in the film. It really catches her likeness, really. Let's answer some questions that I think are on my mind. Now, Marie Antoinette is one of those girls who was forced into an arranged marriage, and heaven knows some of you girls out there, I know it doesn't happen today, but some people actually do arranged marriages still. And for one example, England arranges some marriages, and sometimes even Austria. I think they still have a royal family there today. But there are many royal families that are long gone or have been overthrown by revolutions, including the French and Russian Revolution. But that's another video that I'll talk about later. I'll do even one about how these different girls from different films could have been Disney princesses as well. So, yeah. Let's just talk about, did Marie love her husband? Well, from what we can see in the film of Marie Antoinette, indeed, Marie does seem to have a loving setting for her husband. But somewhat at the same time, her husband doesn't love her as much as we kind of wish she did, as much as we kind of wish that he did. Because from what we can see, we can see that, well, she doesn't really love her husband as much as she would in historical facts. Of course, that Marie wants to actually do as her family pleases. Really, it was her husband's fault that Marie never conceived a child for this long. And most of all, you could say that it was kind of Louis's fault. Now, as for Louis, in general, I'd say he was somewhat scared, at the same time shocked that he was forced to an arranged marriage. Some princes in Europe actually at the time would have been not as happy to be in an arranged marriage, just like with my Henry Tudor theory about how he was never in love with Elizabeth of York. But during the 1700s, mostly French princes and heirs to the throne were not as happy as they would have wanted to be married off to someone that they didn't love. And from what I can tell from Louis' from what I can see from Louis' point of views, Louis was kind of shocked, at the same time scared, to just sleep with Marie Antoinette. Because I guess at the time, as a teenage boys as his age probably would have been cool jocks for nervous, for that matter. I mean, teenage boys at the time would have been nervous. And Louis, from what I can see, he looks like a teenage boy, and Marie Antoinette is 14, and he probably doesn't want to hurt her or anything like that. Like, he thinks she's very beautiful. But remember, guys, he's a teenage boy, so teenagers, well, teenage boys and young teenage girls, they'd be nervous to talk to them as well as sleep with them, be pressured into sleeping with them. Technically, it was kind of Louis' fault that Marie Antoinette was not conceiving a child the entire time of the 6 years they were married. And, well, in all that time, Louis was practically a nervous wreck. He was nervous for sleeping with Marie Antoinette, even though she was pressuring, probably because he felt pressured into it. And mostly, Marie Antoinette was pressuring it on him because he wasn't ready at all. But she was just trying to fulfill her duty to her mother and to everyone else. And you guys may see that as a bad thing, that pressuring someone into, well, intercourse is bad. But it was required for her to conceive an heir, and she wanted to do that. She wanted to fulfill the wishes of France. So, but at the same time, while Louis was basically ignoring the fact that they needed to conceive a child and not fulfilling Marie Antoinette's purpose, she was spending more and more, and at that time she was basically like shopping and doing what wives do, shop, hang out with friends, and gossip amongst the court. So yeah, and Louis explains why he wasn't actually giving Marie Antoinette a child, because it wasn't the right time. You might think that probably because he wasn't ready to be a father, but probably because it wasn't the right time, because he didn't want his grandfather hovering over Marie all the time, and Madame du Barry and all the others around the court, basically just telling her how she's gaining more weight because of baby fat. Like, I probably will talk about how women are over-exaggerating about the gaining weight and how they're not loving their bodies for themselves. So, yes. But Louis,
Do you have homework?
No, Mom.
her and the other.
Sorry, guys. Parental issues. That's why. Now I wonder. Now I know why Louis didn't want to become a parent in the first place. Anyway, let's just get to the next part. So after basically Louis XV dies, Marie Antoinette and Louis are crowned King and Queen of France. And I just love the coronation outfit from Marie. She was very beautiful and very kind, and basically I wish I had her life, really. Because, guys, no joke, my life kind of sucks for me. Not that I can blame my mother. She probably thinks that I'm over exaggerating because I'm not sharing my YouTube advice with her. Mostly because, like Marie, I was not the social butterfly at all when it came to being somewhere new or being forced into something you didn't want to do. I'm no stranger to that, really. Why do you think I don't share with my mother everything I do, including my YouTube channel that she doesn't even know about, and she probably will never know about because she'll be like lecturing me about how I shouldn't show my face on the internet. The overprotection of parents. Now I know why Maria and Louis didn't want kids at all. But yes, guys. Now there are many things that Marie Antoinette has done in the past. After her marriage and her two children fell through, there is one thing that I have a problem with: Marie Antoinette's affairs. Now, there are many affairs that she's had with people other than her husband, and the one famous one is, I think his name was Count Fergan. Yes, Count Fergan, I think, and he was, I think, he was a Swedish duke, and this man, she had spent a long time with in her little courthouse whenever she was away from the palace, and when she got some time away from the palace, of course. And in this time, well, Marie obviously had more time to spend with other men, and Count Fergus was one of these people. After he officially left and went back to fight off in, I think, the American Revolution, he came back and he didn't obviously come back, but Marie Antoinette was the most famous love affair in all of her life. And the only problem is what happened afterwards is that I have one little problem with basically Count Fergan. And that is that I think that the son that Marie Antoinette bare, if you ever watch the film, in the film, Marie Antoinette, after a week, at least probably like a week after that, after Count Fergan leaves and Marie Antoinette goes back to the palace, she literally is pregnant with the heir to the throne. And now some might speculate that maybe, just maybe, Count Fergan is the father of the heir to the throne, and that Louis and Marie Antoinette never slept together, because in all that time we see that Marie Antoinette, between the time that Count Fergan leaves and her with her husband, they're mostly talking, spending time playing poker, doing fun things, and in that time period there was no television or anything like that. So of course during the time of France you'd be bored out of your mind, not wanting to do anything. And Marie Antoinette was a young woman now, so obviously she had her whole life ahead of her. And of course she did have children. So let's speculate that maybe the heir to the throne, the young boy, is Count Fergin's child, and that the child is a bastard to Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI. So, between the time we see Count Fergin leave, Marie Antoinette literally is just lying there, and she goes back to the palace. And in that time period, there are some signs that can show that you're pregnant, that you will be throwing up, that your hormones will be exaggerating a lot, and maybe even, just maybe, you'll want time alone. Now, Marie obviously doesn't show these symptoms at all, but when she actually is with her husband and her friends in the room where they're just playing poker, she's thinking about Count Fersen, off on his horse fighting the war like Napoleon. And she literally asks to be excused, and she literally runs back to her room, and she's probably thinking about that time they had together. Of course, she still loves. Does she love her husband? I think that she does. She does still love Louis, of course, but she also is falling in love with. She also is falling in love with Count Fergin, but she knows she must forget about him and move on with her life because she probably will never see him again. So, yeah, basically, if you all remember this one line from the Marie Antoinette film, "My place is with my husband," she knows she's duty-bound to be with her husband, but she also shows appreciation by not wanting to leave his side and not wanting to be in exile without him. And even that shocks her because she obviously loves her husband. Otherwise, why would she not stay with him? Why would she not just leave and she could be with Count Fergin? And even Louis is protective over Marie Antoinette. Even as he's protective over his family. Any father and husband would protect his wife and children, of course. Any normal father would have done that. But also, he's protective not only just over his children, but Marie Antoinette in general. In the first sight, when they first met and they were first married, of course, Marie Antoinette and Louis both, when not were the most awkward of strangers, but Louis obviously fell for her and her beauty and her kindness and how lovely she was and how she changed things around in the French monarchy and even changed France as we knew it. So of course, and probably when everybody was staring at her, that they knew about her affair with Count Fergin and how she was, well, you could assume that it was probably because she was the Queen of Debt. So, yeah. But in the end, I think that maybe, just maybe, and when we see her next, she's literally given birth to a boy. So I think that the heir to the throne of France is Count Fergin's son, and that he's a bastard child. But Louis probably doesn't know that. He probably thinks that Marie Antoinette, his own wife, it's their child. So who's to say that he doesn't know? So yeah, guys, really, I think that maybe, just maybe, that child is a bastard. But even then, if you can see any version of Marie Antoinette, you probably would know that there's been funny memes about her, maybe even funny times. And even the music in the movie is amazing. You can go watch the movie on Stars and even try to figure out the best part about it. Even like it. So, yeah, that's all I have to talk about for Marie Antoinette. If you all want to watch the film, it's on the Stars app. You can download on your phone. You can watch Stars on your computer or your laptop. And yes, you can buy it on Amazon, I think. But yes, but what do you all think? Do you think that maybe Marie Antoinette's child is a bastard? That the son is a bastard? Do you think Marie did love Count Fergin more than her own husband? And what do you think of the title of the famous quote, let them eat cake? Well, that's maybe a bit not canon, and if you don't know what canon means, true to the story. But yeah, guys, so I'll do at least one more video for tonight about basically 10 famous women throughout history ranked from worst to best. So, yeah. So that's all for today, guys. I'm Sarah from Sarah's Theories, and I will see you all